in general terms, how long has Williams been on your radar? How did this all come together for you?
We've been talking to Milwaukee about Devin for feels like years. Whether it's previous years, the past. It feels like every trade deadline, every spring training, we've had conversation with those guys, which have continued. It's nice to find a match.
And then just, what does this add to your bullpen? How do you feel like this impacts you?
The job always is, to be quite honest, is to try to find as many quality, talented players as we possibly can to give Aaron Boone to line up on both sides of the ball. So definitely this is a high quality arm, to fit into with the pen. And we lost some key players here recently to free agency that obviously helped us navigate. You saw a number of those pitchers, getting big outs, especially in the postseason. And so, clearly there's some vacancies there, and we need to try to find ways to replace it. Now, we like what we already have on the roster that we're happy to still retain, but I need to give Aaron Boone and Matt Blake at least more options coming out of those out of the pen for us. So that's ultimately what led us to do something like this.
Thank you.
Next to Randy Miller. Go ahead and unmute Randy.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Randy.
I know how much you like Durbin, and now with him out of the picture, do you feel that you need to go get a second or third baseman? I know that you've been looking all along at all the options, and he's a rookie, but now that he's not one of the options, can you go into spring training counting on Peraza or DJ to potentially be a starter, or do you need something else?
You got Cabrera also, and so we're just going to stay in the marketplace, but it definitely was a consideration that wasn't easy to navigate at first. We have vacancies there in the infield, and Durbin has emerged as a legitimate candidate that we considered. So we had to weigh, leaving that lane for him versus acquiring someone at the level of Devin Williams. And right or wrong, we just felt it was harder to acquire someone at the level of Devin Williams than it would be to try to figure out infield circumstances. And I don't belittle how important infield is, because it is. And, we need to get some strong defense and quality offense and all that stuff. But it's not as easy to find guys running around of the stature of Devin Williams. So you have to give to get. And so right now our internal candidates are who they are. You've named them all, and I reminded you about, Cabrera, and we'll see how the rest of our conversations continue on the free agent and trade market.
One more with Bregman. There's always been speculation on the outside. Would you bring in a key player from the 2017 Astros? I know he's a great player and available. Does his history of who he was with factor at all into your decision on whether you guys would bring him in?
My job is to find a way to make us, as quality as we can year in and year out. So we're going to vet every opportunity out there, and first and foremost, find out if that can match. He's really he's been a thorn in our side for years, along with a lot of other people's side. He's now into free agency. I'm sure he's got a whole boatload of choices, and really good players like him make a lot of money. And, so I have had a conversation or two with Scott Boras. I'll acknowledge that with a lot of his clients, including Alex Bregman. Certainly respect the player and his ability, and how much winning he's been a part of. But that's about as far as I will say at this point.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ron Blum, go right ahead.
Hi, Cash. Thanks for doing this. Over the years, what are the attributes in Williams that attracted you?
Swing and miss. He's got that devastating changeup. He's got, a big fastball, devastating changeup. That's his calling card. I know he's mixed in a cutter here and there lately. But the soft contact, the swing and miss, the ground balls, all the above, the consistency he's been able to provide for quite some time now. He's a year away from free agency, and but someone that we've tried to acquire for a number of years, and I'm sure we weren't the only bidders here in the end. But certainly not doesn't seem to be afraid. You can't do that job, if you're afraid of the big stage. And so we're just again we're looking forward to adding him into the mix. And the job isn't finished. Here, we constantly are having to find ways to, at least in our minds, think we're getting better one way or the other. And so, as you see, my phone, I keep looking down because I keep getting the connection of texts back and forth with other opportunities that may exist in the marketplace. And listen, we gotta move forward and figure out a way to put the best team on paper we can. Now's the time to strike. It's the winter time with the inventory that's currently available via trade or free agency, and then eventually that inventory is going to get a lot smaller, and you're entering spring training and with less opportunity to drastically improve your club until the trade deadline. So we want to take advantage of this window of opportunity of that everybody's involved with, and we have today Devin to show for that, and we move on.
And as you talk about inventory, how much is it on your mind that with no left-handed relievers on the 40-man roster to try to fill that void now versus waiting for later in the offseason?
Like anything else, it just takes two to tango. You got to find the right matches. And so, yes, I mean, a great thing about whether it's Weaver, whether it's Williams, whatever, if you have right-handers that can neutralize lefties, that's a benefit. It limits your desperation, so to speak, for immediately a left on left, but that doesn't negate that our interest is there. And there are some players on this marketplace that we're interested in, and we'll stay engaged with them via trade or free agency. But ultimately, as I said, the job's not done yet. We have more to do, and hopefully we can run into some opportunities that make sense for two sides, because it's either matching with an agent or matching with an opposing club. And I hope to have more Zoom calls with you all at some point, to talk about something else. So.
Who else has a question? There we go. Jorge, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Cash? You mentioned that Devin will be a free agent after this next season. Did you acquire him believing you can sign him to an extension? Have you talked at all about that with his agent or anything?
Good question. The answer is haven't thought about any of that. Just wanted to secure the opportunity, and then we'll see where it takes us. So have had no conversations internally or externally, and obviously we just got the player. So and definitely haven't had any with him. So, but most importantly, we just know we're better, we believe, today than we were, earlier today.
Thank you.
Peter Splendorio, go ahead.
Hi, Brian. Understanding you have to give to get, just what made Nestor Cortez someone you were comfortable including in the deal?
First and foremost, I want to thank Nestor for everything he's done while he's here. He's been here a few times, and for good reason.
Yeah.
He's a really quality pitcher that did a lot for us. But ultimately, we have an inventory. We're in theory deep in the starting rotation, so I think I talked to everybody here on the way out the door of the winter meetings that if we had to use that inventory to shore up some other aspect of the club, we have to strongly consider that. And and so that's how we currently have utilized that inventory to secure another aspect of the team that it's got a vacancy to it. So hopefully this balances out a little bit more. Between the starting rotation and the bullpen options. So as I said before, as Aaron Boone and Matt Blake and Mike Harkey can navigate the rest of this thing on the pitching side, hopefully we're in a better position than we were, and the time will tell. But we did rob Peter to pay Paul, but we felt that risk was worth doing given who Williams is.
Next to Peter Body.
Brian, hey, with Kyle Tucker getting traded to the Cubs, what was your involvement there? Was the asking price end up just being too high there, especially for a 1-year rental?
We certainly had many conversations with the Astros. I've got a great working relationship with Dana Brown, and ultimately, they made a big trade today with Chicago, and so at the end of the day, I'm glad that Mr. Tucker's not in the American League East or the American League at all. But it's a big get for the Chicago Cubs, and that's all I can tell you. But we had many conversations, with Houston as well as any other team that's got quality talent in the marketplace to talk about.
We got time for a few more. If anybody has a hand, raise it now. Back to Ron Blum. Go ahead. You're good, Ron.
Yeah. Okay. Cash, well, you said you had talked to Milwaukee and over a number of years about Williams. How much does the asking price in terms of talent to go the other way go down as his controllable service time decreases?
Didn't go down, in a couple of different, obviously I think it just depends on the player, so you just saw, today, two players on their, free agent walk years just got traded. There's two trades in the game: Houston, the Chicago Cubs, New York Yankees, Milwaukee Brewers, and I feel like both organizations gave up a lot to get a lot. Last year, with San Diego, we gave up a lot to get a lot, and so it's hard to say. You live through the trade deadline, where you're trading for guys for 3 months, and in many cases you're giving up a lot to get a lot, but for a shorter period of time. So it's really hard to answer your question, to be quite honest. It just depends on where you are and the pressure point of your world, and the competition on with that player in the marketplace. So I don't know. In theory, you should pay less with the less times you have them, but it doesn't always work that way.
Thank you.
Back to Brian Hoke.
This is pretty obvious, but you go in thinking Williams is your closer. What does this mean for Luke Weaver moving forward?
I don't know. I really, I don't. That's an Aaron Boone decision. I'm not kicking it to him because I don't want to answer. I don't really care. All I care about is closing the game down, shortening the game, who's doing it, and when they're doing it. That's going to be for our manager and our coaching staff to figure out. My job is just to import as many quality, talented players, and so I haven't really given it any thought about it, to be quite honest. And so that's all for another day.
One or two more. Peter Splendorio, go ahead.
Just maybe perhaps speaking a bit broadly, but just how would you assess the remaining market, whether it's trade or free agency for position players?
I mean, there's some players in both marketplaces that would be of interest to us, but so far this winter, I haven't imported a position player yet, because clearly I haven't been able to match up with something that makes enough sense in my world or their world. So those dialogues continue.
Take the last one, Randy Miller, go ahead.
Cash, right now, if everyone would stay healthy in your rotation, Stroman probably would be the odd man out, making a lot of money. What's your thoughts on Stroman going forward? Is he a guy that could be a trade piece? Do you look at him as a guy that you might ask to be a full-time reliever?
I have no idea what this roster is going to look like yet. I just know that Stroh was one of the reasons we were able to win the American League East. He was on our postseason roster 2 of the 3 rounds, and so we'll see. He had a really good first half. The second half wasn't as good as the first half, but he was there every step of the way for us in any category we needed him. So he's currently in the mix. And as the one thing about robbing Peter to pay Paul, which we did today, is that you can never have enough pitching. And so I would say just don't make any assumptions on where Stroh would slot for us, because he may very well be playing an important role for us, even though right now the perception might not be the case with who might be perceived to be in front of him. But let's just see how our winter shakes out. And again, I'll leave the personnel placement, whether it's lineups, whether it's rotation versus bullpen and who gets called on when, the front office doesn't do that stuff. That's really goes down to the manager and coaching staff and how they choose to navigate things with what we give them. So
Thank you.